We just got back from BSC Expo in London. 2 days with the people who make this industry what it is.
One thing that I will take from this show is meeting people. That reminded me again how amazing, beautiful, caring, loving people are in our industry.
And then we came home and watched an AI generate a Hollywood fight scene from a single prompt.
If you can tell now, you will not be able to tell in 6 months' time. That's the thing.
We asked you what content you want to see more of. AI came in dead last. We're going to talk about it anyway. Don't kill the messenger. Episode 104.
This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Welcome to episode 104 of CineD Focus Check. Johnny, we made it. 2 years.
Unbelievable how the time flies, huh?
Today,
and I'm 2 years younger. Imagine.
Yeah, you age backwards. No, that's amazing. 2 years. 2 years ago, exactly today, we recorded the first episode. Time is flying. Studio looked a little bit different. We were in the corner here, putting ourselves in the corner. Now we gave the podcast more.
We moved to another corner.
Now we use half the studio. So it just, the importance is higher now.
Yeah.
But let's dive into this week. So first of all, we want to give a shout out to Louis Microphones and Felix, our producer behind the scenes, who used to work for Louis. Because now we're testing actually new microphones, new podcasting microphones from Louis that have what are they called? Louis Ray microphones, and we haven't tried them yet.
It's like a microphone with autofocus, because people were complaining, especially with me, that sometimes it sounds too much bass and sometimes too weak, and that should actually, those microphones should help with that.
So they are boosting the signal if I'm going further away from the microphone, and they are probably reducing it when I go closer like this. So
for those that can't see, Nino is like acting like a chicken. He's moving in and out the microphone just to see if there's any men.
Let's see. Yeah, but let's see. Let us know if it sounds like, if you're listening to the audio version to this, you might actually hear the difference more than the people watching the video. So let's see how it goes. And good. This week we just came back from London from BSC Expo. So of course we're going to cover. We shot 11 videos there?
11 videos, yeah.
I think by the time you see this, all of them should be released. Nothing earth-shattering in the sense that big news, because it's not a big show, but we'll talk about our experience there in a little bit. I think we had a great time, and also seeing everybody again. And on top of that, we'll talk about a poll we ran last week, which is, Johnny asked the question, what kind of content do you want to see more of on CineD? We'll talk about 2 new AI video models that were released from China, actually, the last 2 weeks, the Kling 3.0 and also C-Dance 2.0 by ByteDance. And there's been a viral AI fight video between an AI version of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. And there's a lot of fallout and discussions about that, of course, because of the realism. We'll touch on that. Then we'll move on to talking about a little bit. I wrote a long article on the camera technology used on the Olympics in Milano, the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics, which are still going on. We're about to end in a couple of days. It's always interesting to see these big sports events, because they really always put the latest technology when it comes to cameras.
They're more daring now, I think, all in all.
So we'll just take a quick look. We'll talk about the recall of some of the Pyxis 12K cameras, and the reaction by the community, and what that means. And then we'll dive into our BSC content. We'll touch on the most popular video, probably is the one on the Sony firmware updates that we did, specifically BURANO, FX6, VENICE 2, FR7, and A7S3. Did quite a long interview at BSC about that. We covered the NANLITE PavoSlim 360C. We covered the DoPchoice SnapRabbit. For the first time, I was able to be Batman, because it's not really called Snapman, but they put the name on the product because it's a little bit Batman-esque, I would say. We'll talk about the IronGlass Air lenses, which are now available for pre-order at CVP. That's our rehoused vintage glass for mirrorless cameras. We'll talk about the Astera QuikBeam, which we also did an interview about at BSC. The Axoon CineView M7 camera control updates. We've covered this monitor series quite a few times, but this time we talked about the camera control specifically, and SWIT monitors they actually kind of discovered a feature that they have almost close to zero latency. And of course, with our industry a little bit changing, so manufacturers are trying to focus on other industries, and they found out this is perfect for theater and opera houses, where you need zero delay when somebody is conducting. We did an interview with Cartoni, Elisabetta Cartoni, about the MIXO 21 fluid head and the Ragnopod tripod riser, which we reported about before. Also, Lumix S12, if you buy one now, in the US, unfortunately only, you get a free update to the ARRI Log C3 software. Johnny, you're going to CP Plus next week in Japan.
I'm already packing, and I'm really looking forward. And we are cooperating with CP Plus organization, with CIPA. So I'm very much looking forward to cover the show.
So maybe we can just touch on what's going to be, what we can expect from there. Yeah. We'll talk about YouTube finally launching a Vision OS app for the Vision Pro, which I can tell you as somebody who's testing the Vision Pro for immersive video, this is really something that has been missing, so it's now out. We talk about the new ZEISS Aatma lenses, high-end lenses with a bit of a vintage touch that came out from ZEISS.
Is anybody still buying high-end lenses?
Let's talk about that. Okay. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. We published a review of the Profoto L600C from Graham. So Profoto, a very respectable, reputable brand from the photo industry, entering the filmmaking market the last couple of years, and really going head-to-head with Aperture, I would say, with this light. So Graham took a closer look. We'll talk about the actual launch of the Tilta Nucleus Autofocus Adapter, and we're putting finishing touches finally on the Viltrox Autofocus Adapter review, and
that's quite enough. I think that's
quite enough.
So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So let's start with the poll. Johnny, take me through the poll. So we asked, what kind of content do you want to see more of on CineD? The options were camera lab tests, camera reviews with mini documentaries, accessory reviews, educational content, gear guides, news articles, or AI-related content.
Yeah, I think we've been running on for almost 2 years now, different polls. A lot of them are product-centric, and it was quite interesting to move away a little bit from those, let's say, weekly polls and ask about us, about what we do. I mean, because at the end, we want to be more accurate and more engaged with the community. So it was quite interesting to see what the people are actually, what they're consuming in our site. We allowed multiple choices, but all in all, we had 450 votes. So we are very thankful for you guys for taking the time and voting here, and also leaving some comments. And I have to say that I'm a bit surprised, but pleasantly surprised, because I was really sure when I wrote the poll that so many people will vote for the camera lab test, but in with a high margin between this and whatever comes next. But I'm happy to see that many of you actually like to see our camera reviews with the mini documentaries that we are working quite hard to do. Those are really, they take time, and we put our heart in it. And I'm very happy to see that besides the numbers, when it comes to lab tests, you also like the more emotional and hands-on stuff. And that's very much encouraging us to continue here. Right after that, we have the accessory reviews and then news articles. This is a bit surprising. I thought that you guys actually like to see news in the sense that it brings us back, it brings us all together to see what's new in our industry. But on the other hand, I'm really happy to see that the news is just news. I mean, few minutes, few hours later, you already move to the next thing. Yeah, so it's good to see that only 60 people thought it's kind of interesting. On the other hand, educational content, I'm also very happy to see that this is rather somehow almost in the middle. So you still want to know more about how to do stuff, and there's still this kind of energy to explore and do.
Maybe we should have, what we really don't do much of, I think, is tutorials in general, like how to do something.
Yeah, time or the lack of it is our biggest
maybe
enemy.
That's something we should ask in the future, if people want more tutorials of actually how to achieve something specific, whether it's in camera effects or in editing. Yeah,
that's right. And then gear guides, and then at the end we have the AI related content, which we understand why it's right now at the bottom of the list. But I guess we're gonna run a similar survey maybe in a year from now or 2 years from now, and maybe there will be a bit more demand. We will continue to report about those things because I think we have to. That's not, and we will talk about some of the like the latest models that are literally doing indistinguishable. Like the job that they do is getting realism. It's unbelievable, but we still have to report about those things. But again, I'm very thankful that you took the time to answer. We will, of course, continue with our camera lab tests. We will try to do more. It's all a matter of time and kind of to grab Gunther to do those. For those, the next lab test that we will publish will be the Sony A7 V. And I know that there were a lot of requests for the Panasonic Lumix S1R2. We are working to finish this very soon. And still on our roadmap, we have the GFX Eterna 55. We haven't received the camera with the final firmware, but we are working hard to get this one next to the PixBoom.
And we're still working on the iPhone 17 Pro, which is, we still have to clarify some of our findings. So, but as always, we work with the manufacturers on what we find before we release something.
That's right.
One thing we forgot to ask here is actually the trade show coverage videos, which is also interesting maybe in the future. We see that people are interested in that kind of stuff in general, but and with the AI content, completely agree. We on one hand, of course, we try to serve what's most popular, but on the other hand, we just simply know it's important to report about it. I feel like a lot of people in our industry are simply behaving like an ostrich right now, and they are they don't want to face the reality of what's happening. It's unfortunate. So, but it is our duty to report about it because it is affecting our industry. Yeah. And if we talk about our industry, I mean the production side of the industry. But
we are not pointing fingers. We understand the fear. I think we are so gear-headed people on one hand, and then on the other we want to believe that we are also creative people. And then when you see what these AI things can do, and I don't want to go into this.
But don't kill the messenger. That's my point.
Of course. Do the information whatever you want to. Hopefully, you can bring the best out of it to your needs. But and of course,
we
when
have
it comes
this discussion
to camera,
every day here at the office with the crew, and it's of course it's sad in a way. Like it's sad what's possible now. Without even ever touching a camera, if you think about everything that's lost in terms of like the dynamics on a set and so on, and like a million other things, but it's still a reality.
I hope that at the end of the day, many will just simply get tired from this AI bullshit that is threatening our industry, and at the end, people would want to consume. I'm saying art, but I'm not talking only like artistic stuff, but they will want to really go back to the actual stuff.
But I feel like, we can already jump ahead and talk a little bit about our experience at BSC, but I don't know how you felt, but I think almost every conversation we had, and it doesn't matter if it's with crew or filmmakers, friends from our industry and colleagues, or manufacturers themselves, I think it's already happening, because I think what's now happening is that there is this like extra focus on real stuff. And one kind of illustration of that, for example, is this crazy focus on video podcasting. I think it's become a huge industry. You have manufacturers and retailers. CVP, for example, they converted an entire showroom, which used to be an RE showroom. They converted it into video podcasting, visual podcasting thing. And it's like a huge thing, especially in the UK, and it's in the US as well. But that is an example. That's one thing you cannot do with AI. It's just people talking, essentially. And you have so much time of people consumed who are watching video podcasts now, which used to be, we call it video podcasts now, but maybe, 20 years ago, we would have said talk shows, essentially, right? It's kind of the same thing. You have some amazingly huge channels now which get a lot more views than any network television, and this is in a way reality. It's like documentary, but the difference being that it can be easily, like we do every week, like it's something that can be produced regularly without reinventing the wheel. And it's a lot of time consumed by people watching those things. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you can already see that there's a lot of focus going.
Well, I wonder if so many people simply have more time because they are losing jobs. And
to watch video podcasts?
Either to both. Like you need to reinvent yourself. So either you have more time to listen and look at podcasts, that's one thing, or you really want to dive into this because obviously this is one of the hottest things right now. And that's what also CVP, our dear partners in the EU, recognize. And that's why there's a whole floor dedicated now to create podcasts and also educate people how to do this right. That's one thing. But going back to BSC, I think in general, and you mentioned that we met people, one thing that I will take from this show is meeting people. That reminded me again how amazing, beautiful, caring, loving people are in our industry.
Absolutely.
And this is something that no AI will ever replace. This type of gathering, this type of communication, this type of sharing opinions. Of course, there were many there that are still looking for jobs, looking for opportunities. There's nothing wrong about it. But we met, besides the personal love that we got, and I'm saying this with a lot of pride, because obviously people recognize what we do and they are thankful for that in the sense that we are thankful back to the community to consume our content. But it was simply so nice to meet people again. Mm-hmm. And BSC in general is a small show. It's not one of those shows that you have to walk miles and miles in order to find a booth. It's all in like one big showroom, and there's a bit second floor kind of. It's kind of loud, but the people were extremely nice and patient, and it's a small show and it's a short one. It's only 2 days, but I think besides producing the 11 videos that you talked about, we simply enjoyed the gathering. And I hope that we made new friends for life. I also hope that from the business perspective, you will be able to see some of the things we talked about in the coming into fruition in the next few months. But all in all, we should not. We better hang to each other than being hanged next to each other. You know what I mean? And this is something that I learned and I saw again in this show, just to keep supporting each other whenever we can.
I think the good thing about times like these, where a lot of what has been done for decades is changing. We don't know where it's headed and how it's changing. You see, there's also a big willingness of both manufacturers but also the audience to change, to educate themselves. And a lot of the conversations automatically became about education, where they're learning new things or teaching new things. So a lot of people who are established in our industry are refocusing there and finding a niche that works for them. In general, I find it interesting that there's a huge, like we talked about the podcasting niche, but there's other niches like immersive filmmaking. And, people are finding niches where they can be creative again. And also manufacturers are finding niches where they can find something unique in a way, which is not that occupied. So it almost like... it's not getting more compartmentalized, but it's like, people in general are identifying these niches and really getting into it. And I talked also, I'm sure we both talked to a lot of people who are like used to shoot a lot of stuff, and then now they found this one thing that they're now focusing on, and suddenly they really found that they're really good at it and then focus on that. That's the cool thing. I think it's just in general that, people are reorienting themselves within our industry and finding niches and do also passion projects that they've probably put away for a long time. Yeah.
Because at the end, and this is something that I learned many years ago, talking to a friend who is a cameraman, DOP, whatever, and he opened his business. And one day I came to his office and I saw him completely like this, I said, Peter, what happened to you? And he said, Johnny, all I wanted in life was to film. Look what happened to me. I became, I became a producer, and I think we can both feel it sometimes when we are stuck at the office for too long. let's go out and film, and that's why personally I like the mini documentaries, because it just allows me to still do what I really like.
And I look forward to go out, enjoy the sunshine today, and shoot my RS5 review.
Good.
This afternoon. All right, let's move on before we get too philosophical.
Emotional.
Let's do the BS. Well, actually, let's do the Olympics first. Actually, so yeah, just I tried to research as much as I could. There's no public information really what cameras are used, because of course the organizers don't want to advertise.
Yeah, but we know for sure that
there are some manufacturers saying
exactly.
So for example, Sony together with NBC, like all the US broadcast, is a lot is done with Sony cameras, but the OBS, which is the Olympic Broadcasting Services, that's kind of the technical company by the Olympic Committee that is always doing all this stuff. They not really publicly say what cameras are. So you kind of have to work from press images, which is interesting. It's kind of it's almost like it felt like a little bit of a
quiz, no?
It was fun for me to kind of try and find out. And then, so I found out a couple things. So first of all, one thing that's big now is, of course, they're doing a lot with larger sensor cameras in general. Not every 2x2 inch CMOS camera is replaced, but you know there's a lot of FX6 used. You see it, for example. This is an official image from the OBS. You see a FX6 in the the goal area, kind of like where the skiers end up. And on a gimbal, I think it's it's probably a DJI gimbal. I can't really recognize. So a lot of that, we in general, I think in the skiing events, I've seen a lot of Sony cameras on gimbals lately.
I think we have to distinguish, by the way, between photo and video.
Of
because
course.
For the video, we are talking now, but we know for sure that the photo Canon is very busy and others too. So
I mean, we'll in this case, I'm of course mostly talking
video.
about. There's a couple of cool videos that didn't actually get so much traffic because I guess nobody knows the OBS YouTube channel, but they're doing a bit of the behind the scenes of what.
Can you just go back a little bit and stop there? Oh, I recognize this camera.
Yeah.
What do we see here?
I think this is Zcam.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is Zcam. And I'm sure that Kinson Lu is very happy to see his cameras.
He's posting a lot about it on Facebook in his group, in the Zcam group, which is always a great. I mean, if you're interested in Zcams in general, he's very active there in the Zcam Facebook group, and always gives a lot of insights of where the cameras are used.
He used to do a lot for the Summer Olympics, so obviously they were quite happy, and all those small cameras. It will be interesting to to catch up with him and know what exactly they like.
It's the bullet time stuff. So you see like they freeze like ski jumpers and also ice skaters in the air and like do this. Really cool stuff.
Cool stuff. Everybody now is what's his name of the actor?
Keanu Reeves, yeah.
Exactly.
Now 26 years later, 27 years. So then of course a lot of Panasonic cameras are still used for the normal broadcast stuff, probably. That's what we see. Zcam, like we said. Also FPV drones. Lots of FPV drones.
From which manufacturer?
Different. I mean, we see actually a lot of, I see some Blackmagic micro cameras on an FPV build with Laowa lenses. So a lot of Laowa wide-angle lenses, actually. That was also on the official press photos, right?
But I saw kind of a homogenic drone, you know what I mean? Without this kind of constellation that you need.
Different ones. I think they're using all kinds, honestly. There's also one with the GoPro. I think that's the CineWhoops, the light ones that really go like crazy fast. I mean,
following the ski jumpers.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Not the jump. Well, maybe the jumpers, but it's mostly the downhill skiing. There's some amazing footage. I mean, they literally. Now, every time somebody is skiing down, I think there was like somebody commented there were like 7 on the downhill ski alone. There were 7 FPV crews.
Can you think about
because
the operation?
You have to like every time.
Follow.
It's crazy.
You have to follow and imagine how the whole operation with batteries and keep them. And we really have to find somebody, maybe even from this committee, to talk more about the technical aspect because it's so interesting.
The boss of the committee actually gave a long YouTube talk, which I embedded here at the bottom, which is like a 1-hour thing. I mean, I'm sure he's not an operator, but he's like the person running OBS. And he kind of gave an overview of what they're using. So something like that would be interesting. Of course, I mean, it's just fascinating. There's also a cooperation that they have with Samsung about 5G connectivity, which is replacing the traditional RF backpacks and satellite trucks, which is also interesting.
Unbelievable.
So they already do this. There's also an official press image of a normal broadcast camera with a phone mounted on top. It wasn't clear if this is for 5G connectivity or just using it as a monitor. It's not explained. But it's interesting. You see, I mean, it's really, latest technology always used at the Olympics.
So it's really nice what they are really doing. Obviously, they had to test it beforehand because you don't want to be test new technologies in the Olympics when millions are watching. Me personally, I have nothing to do with skiing or Winter Olympics. I mean, that's I'm a fake Austrian and I'm not really into those things. But I think the technical side of it is fascinating.
I think it's just great, especially for the downhill skiing stuff, that now with those FPV drone perspectives, you finally get a sense of the speed. I've been in person watching. I mean, I'm from Tyrol originally, so I've watched ski races quite often in live. And it's a completely different experience when you see them whooshing by and you realize they're like 100 kilometers per hour or something. And then you see it on TV, and usually, traditionally, of course, it was shot with long telephoto lenses. And what long telephoto lenses do, they slow everything down, kind of like you get the feeling that something is actually not fast. I mean, it also, we talked about a similar thing last year when on the Formula One movie, right? The Formula One is the same thing. It used to be filmed from like a bird's eye perspective, and it's just basically panning across, and you never get the feeling for the actual speed. But then you put the camera inside the cockpit, and you realize how fast it is. And I think it's the same with the FPV drones here. It's insane that breakneck. You only always realize how dangerous it is if an accident happens, because then it's usually like, broken bones. And it's like, for example, Lindsay Vonn, unfortunately, of course, her comeback was kind of interrupted by this freak accident. But you get a feeling for the speed now finally with the new technology. And
it's
that's quite
moving
amazing.
From I can do this too to are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. I can definitely. Nobody. It's like, It's impressive. Good. But let's move on to, we just talked about Blackmagic. So Blackmagic actually issued a recall for about, they say, around 10% of their Pyxis 12K cameras. And it's actually interesting how the community responded, because it's a very positive response, I have to say. I mean, both in our site, but also on forums, a lot of people applauded this move, because it has been almost like a common knowledge that some of those cameras had issues. And there were people who actually sent their cameras back. It's mostly image issues with like lines across the frame and stuff like that. We had one of those issues in our lab test. We observed that, and Blackmagic unfortunately wasn't able to confirm whether the camera that they sent us for the lab test was affected by that problem or not. So we already decided to retest this camera for the lab, as many people have requested. We just have to wait to really get a unit that is confirmed not to have this issue.
What is the issue?
The issue is, like I said, horizontal lines. It's some fixed pattern noise and stuff like that. I mean, unfortunately, of course, Blackmagic has a bit of a history, especially with their earlier cameras. In the early days, they had quality issues. It has actually gotten a lot better over the last few years, but unfortunately, this camera was affected again. So we just have some comments from people that have a confirmed issue with their camera, but they were not able to get it repaired yet because, for example, in the US, their local Blackmagic service didn't actually have the components to replace it yet, so they have to wait. We've heard that from a couple of people, but it is happening, and it's nice that they're actually doing it. If you just imagine what a huge effort such a recall is for a manufacturer and the cost they go through, I think it's great that they acknowledge that.
So what is the moral of the story for us? It's always better to acknowledge and
just be upfront,
transparent. And of course, it can happen.
Mistakes happen.
Yeah, and then trying to hide or manipulate the people, it's never going to end up good.
And I think very often these companies are also dependent on their suppliers, and if they get the sensor from a factory and without I'm just saying it's like it's a sensor made to their specifications, but if something changes in the manufacturing process and they're not even aware until the camera has shipped, it can be a problem. So it's great that they actually acknowledge that, and it's happening now. So if you have a Pyxis 12K camera, check the serial number. They have released the specific serial number that is kind of the last one that supposedly is affected by this problem. And after that, the newer ones should not be affected. But the early units in general seem to be affected by this issue. And then you get a free replacement or fix on the camera. Just check with your local Blackmagic service center before sending it in, because apparently some of the service centers seem not to have access to the components just of now yet. All right, let's move on to our BSC coverage. So the Sony firmware updates that were announced, we already reported about them. So we're just going to touch on this now. For the BURANO, the FX6, VENICE 2, FR7, and A7S3. So specifically, the BURANO gets more 5x6 anamorphic mode. I think it's still not quite open gate, to be honest. FX6 gets the Big 6 menu. It doesn't get the EL zone update, unfortunately, that a lot of people wanted, which is in the VENICE 2 and the BURANO. And the FR7 gets some updates when it comes to actually tracking, open tracking protocol. And the A7S3 gets something which is related to autofocus updates. Now, we talked about this with Daniel from Sony, a very interesting interview. Check it out, and he goes through everything. I also asked him the question, of course, because talking about firmware updates, there have been numerous reports of people having issues with their Sony cameras after performing a firmware update and actually losing some of the functionality. Some people say that their Wi-Fi doesn't work with their camera anymore, which is a huge issue, of course. And I mean, in a very, corporate way, he was able to reply that, of course, it's unfortunate and they're trying to fix it and do better in the future. But I would just recommend you, if you really have a hardware issue with your camera after performing any Sony firmware update, first of all, you can write to us. We'll try to, kind of report about these things and also activate our channels. Like if we have enough reports about stuff like that, it's easier for us to reach out and say, look, we have 10 people who have this issue, fix it, make it right for those people, because nobody should have their camera bricked by having a firmware update. I myself had this issue 15 years ago with an EX3, and I know how painful it is. I lost the camera for half a year because the firmware update just bricked the camera. Horrible. This shouldn't happen. And apparently Daniel said they're adding a lot more resources now on the quality control. So it's taking several weeks now to quality control firmware updates, as opposed to what used to be a couple of days, I guess. So hopefully they'll do better in the future. But I think
not that it's an excuse, but you guys have to understand that this is such a complicated process. All in all, you literally have to test the camera in so many, almost endless scenarios. And of course, that's a problem here, because we are all using the cameras in so many different ways, and it can be that maybe the camera was not tested in a specific way, and that's exactly where the firmware is breaking it. So again, it's not justifying anything, but this is a very, very long process, and that's why it also takes quite a lot of time.
But if you check out the video, if you've had an issue in the past, write us at podcast@cined.com, or leave a comment on the article, and we will see this. And if it's enough comments, it's easy for us to get in touch with them and say, look, guys, I mean, there seems to be this real issue, fix it for those people, because, it doesn't need to be a recall like in the Blackmagic, because it seems to be different problems. But, of course, if your hardware is affected in any way and any function like Wi-Fi doesn't work anymore, they should fix it. We're absolutely on, like the user side here, 100%. Yeah. So good. Let's move on. Just a quick mention. We did an interview also with Andy from NANLITE on the PavoSlim 360C. So basically, we reported about their lineup. they've released a huge amount of different sizes actually for their PavoSlim. The whole idea of this series is to have a very, very slim fixture that is, RGB, of course, and it has, so RGB. There's a 1x1, there's a 2/0.5, there's a 2x2, a 2x1, a 4x1, and a 4x2. And the 4x2, of course, is quite large. The cool thing is, of course, you can all connect them with their app or DMX, control them together. The way they're constructed, they don't have a fan. They're very slim. They're not flexible lights, like flexible LEDs, like many other manufacturers have. But honestly, I mean, I've yet to see somebody use a flexible LED light as a flexible LED light. You know what I mean? Most people who use flexible LED lights basically just roll them up when they travel with them, which makes a lot of sense. But unless it's a car ceiling or something like that, rarely used in a non-straight way. So in this case, they have quite a powerful output for the fact that they don't have a fan and they're very thin. And of course, the whole ballast is a separate unit. So it makes a lot of sense if you, for example, need a ceiling light and you don't have a lot of space just to put it up there and put a softbox on it and have a nice soft light from top, for example. Or in general, also, like hair light or kicker lights. It's great to have this big size now, and it's shipping now, so they are out, and they have a new mechanism to mount them, which is so it seems to be more straightforward than before.
I actually want to note that if you watch the video or read the article, at the bottom there is something that we are referring as the little Evoke, and this is something that was teased at BSC. We deliberately didn't focus on this little fixture because there is not much information right now, and the dear people at the company at NANLITE were kind of
teasing
it, but this is such a tiny fixture that it will come in a set. Obviously, we can see from the photo, and you'll be able to control and shape lights in different ways. And this is something that we will, of course, touch when we are closing to NAB. But this is something that if you're into those small lights that you need to move from one place to another, I think this is, just mark. Yeah.
So if you don't watch the video of this, it's basically the size of a GoPro. The light, it looks like a mini COB, and you can attach a little battery at the back to power it. So it's tiny. It's like it can be a tiny everything light.
And different lenses at the front. That's the thing.
A lot of modifiers,
filters and modifiers and lenses.
There's tubes. There's soft light.
It's a whole set.
It feels like everything that a COB light is with a Bowens mount shrunk down 1/10 of the size. So quite interesting, and of course you can fully control them and with the app and everything, but no technical details yet. And they didn't want to talk about this one on videos, which is fine. So we're just teasing it here too. At NAB, we'll probably do a full video on this. Yeah, moving on, we did a coverage of DoPchoice, who released the SnapRabbit, a magnet-assisted quick open softbox system. And it's huge. I mean, it's like I was able to be Batman, if you can see this here. So that's looks so stupid.
Should we reveal how many times we tried to do this?
There's an outtake.
That was not easy for Nino to spread his wings, literally, because it's a very robust fixture, and the end of it, like when you have to clip it on, it's not so easy.
So it looks like this if it's not open, and then that's what I did behind my back basically, and then I disappeared suddenly. No, where is this? I disappeared.
You disappeared, yeah.
And it's huge. I mean, the mechanism is great, of course, because it's very quick to set up and collapse, and you can have such a huge softbox with this without like taking half an hour to assemble it.
We also have to give a shout out to the person behind this, because Stefan is really, really great in presenting stuff. He's in his older days, he was a DOP, and he literally felt that something is missing for him, and he established a company, and they make they really work very nice with all different brands to create those type of fixtures. We will see this later with the Astera modifiers. We will see this later with Astera too. And I think
it's actually here, the Astera.
That's right. That's the shower cap or the diffuser for the Astera.
The QuikBeam.
The QuikBeam. Yeah, but all in all, check it out if you're into those type of modifiers. I'm sure you will think that this is very useful.
Yeah. Good. Moving on to IronGlass.
But that's, it is the show related. Of course, we didn't have time to make a video about it. Yeah. But yeah, of course.
So IronGlass Air lenses are what? Rehoused vintage lenses, right?
Yeah. So those are rehoused vintage lenses, and actually, it's quite interesting to hear the discussion within the article. What people think about those lenses. They will ship in EZ, RFL, GF, and M mounts. And the idea is that you use older Soviet lenses in general, and then rehousing them for proper work. I mean, when I say proper work, it can be also for rental, because we know that photo lenses in general will simply not withstand the pressure of everyday work or rental and so on.
Shout out to CVP here. Jake and Sam did a great video on those lenses, and you can really see the beautiful bokeh. It's just amazing characteristics, of course. Yeah, the swirly bokeh.
Yeah. So those will come in either 6 or 3 set of lenses. And the big thing here is, first of all, because those are really made for mirrorless, the big thing here is the reduction of price. We know that IronGlass was charging quite a lot, almost double for their rehousing process or products up until now. And the 6 kit, which consists of 20, 28, 37, 58, 85, and 105, will cost 10,000 euros. And if you're into a free kit lens, 37, 58, 85, a 3-lens set, it's 5,000 euros. And I think it's worth noting that you can also buy those individually. And the set consists of different lenses. It's not that those will only be from like old batch. Mm-hmm. They are different. And now comes the question. I mean, some of those lenses, photo lenses, can still be found for maybe $50 and so on. And then the question is if there's any justification to charge, let's say, around 2,500 euros per lens, when a lens like this will cost what, 50, 100, let's say even $500. Yeah, I mean, I'm exaggerating now, and there's a whole discussion here, and that's, I think, quite interesting to read what the opinion of people. Yeah. What do you think, Nino? Is there justification to charge so much for a rehoused lens, especially that we know that there are other companies that are rehousing similar lenses to make them kind of cinema style, and the housing, the whole thing will cost much less eventually.
I have to say, I don't feel like I can share an opinion here without having the lenses in my hand compared to the originals. You know what I mean? It's like, if I see the originals and figure, okay, well, for some reason I couldn't use those 5 different lenses on a cinema shoot consistently because I'm worried about them breaking or whatever, because the housing is maybe not as sturdy, and then I see the rehoused one and it's really solid, it might make sense. I think it's all, you know how it is. I mean, if you rent a set like this to shoot a feature film, and shooting a feature film takes 6 to 8 weeks, and it just needs to work in rain. It needs to work in every circumstance. It needs to. So if the quality gets better, if they're more sturdy, and if that kind of extends the lifespan of a lens, 100% makes sense. But if it's not really, if the previous version was already good enough, yeah. So it's.
Yeah, I mean, the guys are running a business. They have to earn. But the question is, between earning and feeling a bit manipulated, there's a gap, and I'll be happy if somebody from the company will simply jump in and maybe, it's not a matter of excusing yourself, but more explaining why the cost is relatively high, especially that others are doing it for a bit less money. I mean,
but who's doing it for less money?
I have to, it's really amazing. Only when you're visiting some of the smaller shows, you see how many individuals or companies are actually rehousing lenses.
True.
So it's more like to understand the philosophy, let's call it, behind the pricing. Yeah. And then and by the way, one of the comments, and I found it quite interesting to read, that some people are simply getting tired of the actual look of those old lenses after some time. So that's another thing.
It definitely was a hype. I mean, this hype started already, I guess, 10 years ago. And now, I mean, this vintage look is everywhere. Yeah. So the question is, at some point, of course, people might get tired of it. I just want to, the philosophy, we always talk about vintage lenses and the look and so on. There's actually a technical explanation for why which lens looks how, you know what I mean? And I think very often we don't have a clue about this, and I can only recommend, if you're interested in that, check out the course that we have, which is called The Art and Science of Lenses, because it really dives into explaining exactly why which lens looks how, right? Which it's dependent on the amount of blades, it's dependent on the coating. And there's a lot
gaps.
of, like Tal Lazar, he's doing a really great job at kind of dissecting that for each lens. And it's almost, when you watch the course, when I watched it, there was a lot of like aha moments for me, because it really kind of opens your eyes, because there's only a handful of lens designs that are out there, like how it works, like basically how they are constructed, and there's rarely any kind of new ways of constructing them. You know what I mean? Especially for manual lenses. So once you kind of grasp the principle, you can almost, when you see a lens, you can already understand why it produces the look it has, right? So this is, and it's a lot of philosophical thing on how a lot of those vintage Soviet lenses were constructed versus other ones, which kind of happened, like they developed in parallel to Western lenses before the fall of the Iron Wall, and it's very, very interesting. It really gives you such a good insight on, and it is technical, but it's also explaining the art behind it. So I can just recommend you do that, because I think very often DPs don't understand why a lens looks like something, and they just like the look. But it also helps you actually identifying if you're looking for specific, like if you're looking for vintage lenses, and very often you see them on eBay, and you don't, you might only see the lens and might not have a clue how the image will look from it. When you see this course, you will understand how this lens is constructed and what kind of look it might produce, what to expect exactly. So, yeah, but in general, yeah. So let's see. I agree. I think it's people are getting a bit tired by the look sometimes, but it's still dreamy. It's still nice. Let's actually stick with lenses, because we're already talking about the rehoused lenses, and talk about just a couple of days ago, ZEISS announced a new lens of high-end lenses. They call them Aatma with double A. Some people actually in the comments said it might be just to be on top of those lists, like when there's a list of lenses available, if you start with a double A, you're certainly going to have the first one. So it's like this old interview with Steve Jobs, why he called the company Apple. He just wanted to be on top of investors' lists when the company name comes up. So anyway, ZEISS, is really, I think, well known specifically for very sharp lenses and very optically precise lenses, but not necessarily, especially the newer ZEISS lenses, for kind of bokeh character. You know what I mean? They've changed this a little bit over the last few years with the Supremes and then also some other series, and now this series it's priced between, I would say it's just around the Supreme, actually. It's not so far away from them. We're talking about around $20,000 per lens, so it's quite pricey. So definitely like a rental item. And the name Aatma comes from the Sanskrit word for innermost essence, self, or soul. And according to the company, they were designed to evoke emotion while keeping a consistent look across the set. So basically, they wanted the vintage look, but wanted to offer it for a whole set.
So they moved away from the birds' names? Because there was a time, I think, with the
Really?
I think there was something with the birds, no?
Which one is a bird name?
What was the... maybe it's more for the photo lenses.
The Batis? Was that a bird?
Wait, let me check quickly if Batis...
Loxia? I don't know.
Loxia.
Really? I don't remember. Anyway, so they're kind of going for the vintage look here, but in a new housing. And they're also spherical lenses, so not anamorphic. There's no real ZEISS anamorphic lenses under the ZEISS brand, I would say.
I mean, it looks beautiful. For me, I find, I don't know how to say, we have a lot, there's a tradition, of course, here, and this company is very well respected. And obviously they chose not to combat the Chinese companies here of course, on this price range. So the question is, if this is only rental, and only time will tell, if the rental oriented lenses, is it justified or not in terms of from the business perspective.
It's funny that even some people also commented, and I saw it also in the video, that for ZEISS lenses, there's really almost a focus thing. It looks a little bit soft intentionally, because even the ones that had character, like more a bokeh character before from the ZEISS sets, when something was in focus, it really was tack sharp in focus. And this time it seems like it's more consistent in a way. But it definitely looks vintage. I mean, I have to say, like if I saw this, I wouldn't think that those are new lenses in a way. So
it's so difficult to distinguish between lenses when you look at YouTube. I mean, it's like I mean, take any of so many of the Chinese offering right now, because the light is very nice here, and then it's a matter of, can you distinguish between the lenses? If we will do a blind test, I'm not so sure that
that's actually
So again, I'm sure they did it well here, but within time we will hear also from rental houses we are in contact with. First of all, if they bought sets like this, and from cinematographers we are in contact with, I really wonder if they will prefer to use those lenses over others.
Yeah,
cheap, it's not.
No, they are starting. So
and Loxia and Batis, by the way, those are name of birds.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
interesting. So the focal lengths they are starting with, and I mean that's the cool thing with ZEISS, right? They don't just release 2 or 3 focal lengths. They always try to go with the whole set, and at launch the entire set is already available. So it's 18, 25, 35, 40, 50, 65, 85, 100, and even 135 millimeters. So it's really, I mean, it almost leaves nothing to be desired. I love always that they do the 40. You know, like, I mean, there's this gap with a lot of manufacturers between 35 and 50. And as a DP, I often feel it's the perfect sweet spot for a portrait. Actually, 50 often feels a little bit too long and 35 too short. So it's great. They already started with a full set. So of course you can buy them individually or as a set. And
how much per set will be?
I don't see.
We don't have it here.
We don't have it here, but it's Anyway, they also announced that they are going to release the ZEISS Panoptis 65. So that's also a new line that is specifically made for the 65, like the large format sensors. Specifically, of course, the Alexa 265, the 65, and the Ursa Cine 17K 65, which was renamed. Did you know? The Ursa Cine is finally called the Ursa Cine 17K 65. We've had some, I mean, without naming names, but we, had this conversation with some people at Blackmagic before, where it's like, it's not actually smart to put the K resolution in the name of the camera, because the first thing you think about when you hear Pyxis 12K is like, I don't need it. That's my immediate reaction. I don't need 12K. I certainly don't need 17K. The thing is, the in-camera downscaled versions are extremely good and actually give you sometimes more dynamic range, as we've seen in the lab test. So you can shoot 4K on a Pyxis 12K and it looks amazing, right? So, but because it's in the name, people assume that you kind of have to shoot it. And I think that also goes back to a lot of people being used to RED cameras, where you always had to use the full resolution in order to get the full sensor, because the processing wasn't fast enough to give you a proper downscaled version. That's not the case. So now, unfortunately, they've named the cameras as they named them, but now they are changing it a little bit, that they're actually not calling it the large format or whatever. They literally put the sensor size 65 at the end of the 17K.
So you don't want to name names, but you're still giving Blackmagic as a
I'm saying,
example.
Well, actually, I don't know if it was somebody from Black, but it's. I think they've realized that it's just something that it's not so smart, because it's just putting, it's turning a lot of people off for the wrong reasons.
That's right.
Right. So okay. Good. So we've covered those. Let's move on to Astera. We've done a video on their QuikBeam,
which really highly impressed you. I mean, the first thing that when you saw those lights, you said, I want one, I want to review one.
Yeah, because I think there's always been, I mean, we've talked about it on one of the last shows as well, when we just reported about the news. The cool thing, I think, is just in general to have a Fresnel, a small Fresnel, which is battery powered. There's still a lack of those in the industry, in my opinion, and it's just great. They thought about a lot of things. There's a really small battery that is in the body, like it's not a separate thing. You can literally use them alone, and you can see Astera's heritage that they come from events. I mean, they want to build those.
It is a separate. Sorry, just to make it clear, you can't separate the battery.
Yeah, but I mean, it's it's right. It's a removable battery. But I'm saying it's not separate unit. There's no ballast
or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. And this battery, you can either power the light, or you can even use it to power your whatever you want, phone or charge your phone. And they have a neat backpack with 2 sets, two light kits, or actually you buy the whole box with 4 lights. So they really did a really great job. It's almost like going back to heritage in so many ways, and that's what Ben, the guy who behind some of the innovation these companies coming up with, also reflected this. He said they really liked working on this project. Very nice project. The only thing we don't have is the price. We really couldn't get.
Really?
We couldn't get the price yet. I think they are still. It's the like the latest stages of it, and we of course will inform you guys when we know more.
I just think it's great to have the Fresnel built into the light. Like we have a lot of options now. But I think the whole LED industry has done so many COB. I mean, it's usually COBs or panel lights, right? And variations of that over the last few years.
Getting boring, huh?
It's getting really boring. And now this is it's almost like a dado light set, right? The dados, they became so popular in the old days, even before LEDs. My first set of lights that I ever bought was a suitcase of 3 dado lights that I could use as a key light for a small interview and a kicker light, and it's a Fresnel built in. The only limitation was, of course, that the source is quite small, so the output you could get wasn't great. Of course, they also have newer versions now, but with this one, it's bigger, so you can actually use this as a small interview kit, I think, with a softbox. So and just Fresnels. There was just a lack of Fresnels.
Yeah, that's
controlled light, hard light.
Anywhere Fresnel light, which is really great.
I mean, the biggest point is always you can always make a hard light soft, but you cannot make a soft light hard. And if you start with a soft light with a panel light, you're always limited in a way. So very cool concept, and of course, I mean, works wirelessly, can be controlled together, and really don't have pricing on this. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see how they're pricing it. I hope competitively. All right, Axoon, just a quick touch here. Did an interview with them again on their camera control. We've covered the CineView M7 series many times before. It was just interesting for me to find out what kind of cameras you can control with them. They keep adding new models, and Colin, who we interviewed, was also quite open to share that they're constantly exploring what's possible. I think red cameras are not part of the setup yet because, of course, the manufacturer also needs to agree to that. We know that small HD monitors allow red camera control, but that's a paid upgrade for small HD monitors. It's like a license you have to pay. With the Axoon monitors so far, it's always been for free. Those monitors are based on Android. So it's literally, I mean, they started with a really cool app with a CineView wireless transmission service, and then they basically realized at some point, well, we can just basically, buy a really cool panel, put Android on it, and just run our own apps. And that's what they're doing. And the cool thing is they're not limiting it. So you can add other Android apps on it. So you can even run the Sony app, for example, the native, monitor control app on the monitor and stuff like that. It really opens up a lot of possibilities. And it's really, I mean, there are 3 options of this monitor now, and it's the M7 Pro, the M7, the normal one. The Pro is the one that has the transmitter, the receiver built in. There's only €100 difference, so I wouldn't even know why to buy the one that doesn't have the receiver, to be honest. It's like $900 versus $700 versus $800. And there's also a new version, which I probably missed it. There's an M7H version, which is HDMI only, because the other ones are SDI. But also, again, just $100 difference, so I would go with the Pro. Anyway, it's really cool that they have camera control now for FX6, FX3, FX30, A7 IV, A7S3, A9 III, A7C Mark II, and then also a lot of the Canon R cameras, all of them basically, and the Nikon cameras. So yeah, it's quite comprehensive already. What's missing for now is Panasonic and Red, and of course some other brands, but those are the major ones. Yeah, moving on to SWIT. That was also an interesting interview. They didn't actually show us new monitors, but
interesting and also a little bit hard to showcase while we made the interview.
Yeah, so basically they wanted to highlight that their monitors have close to zero latency, less than 5 milliseconds in a wired connection, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
And the way they want to market this is to opera houses. So they have like a whole case study on their website, which we linked, where they did this. So basically, because on an opera house, of course, huge distances between the lighting department, the conductor, the orchestra, everybody involved, and the talent, of course. And so this gives them a chance to actually wirelessly transmit, wired, not wirelessly.
Yeah.
So transmit the image from the conductor to the lighting department, who takes their cues from the conductor, of course, without delay. So, you know, the second he makes a special movement, they can switch the lighting setup basically.
And this they found out while working, I think there was a Polish production, and they found out that actually with those monitors, when they're wired, not wirelessly, wired connected to the monitor, they can actually have very low latency.
Yeah.
And they reported back to SWIT, and that's how the whole contact was made.
And they compared to other manufacturers, which apparently have a bigger delay. So that's why they ended up with the SWIT monitors. So they wanted to highlight this. Very interesting.
Yeah. Very cool, actually.
Yeah. Cartoni, we did a nice interview with Elisabetta Cartoni, still family-owned business. Johnny did a nice factory tour about them, actually before COVID, I think.
It's actually 7 years ago since I visited. It's almost unbelievable.
And she and her husband, who's turning 80 now, incredible, are still running the company, which is amazing.
Running the company, and he's on a big BMW motorbike. I still remember riding with him in the streets of Rome to film some of the things, and it was like scary but enjoyable.
The Rome traffic is crazy. Yeah.
No, actually, also very good to test stabilizers in general because of those the structure of stones. But anyway, Elisabetta is still kicking really hard, and it really looks like Cartonis want to do stuff, innovate. So the MIXO 21, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about what's new here.
So they call it MIXO because it's mixing two things. It's mixing a step drag mechanism, which is something you might be familiar with, like me. I mean, I'm mainly using Sachtler tripods. It's kind of normal for Sachtler tripods to have a step drag, but for Cartoni, it's not. Like they used to have like a seamless one. So this is a step drag now, but they have a step less counterbalance. So they're combining the both. That's why it's called MIXO. Like usually you get steps in both or no steps at all. Like Vinton has no steps in both. Sachtler has steps in both. So it's like, and this one combines it. That's why they call it MIXO. I think it's smart because actually the counterbalance needs to be stepless to be exact. Because very often, I mean, especially if you use a lighter camera setup, I always felt it's difficult to properly balance a head if it's on the lighter side. And you literally feel like sometimes it's between two steps. So this one is stepless.
Maybe it's also helping somehow with the payload here, because obviously the way it is constructed, you go from 0 to...
She says it's from 0, but somebody commented that it's actually on the website, it says from 3 kilograms. So that's something...
but she was very quick to answer, actually.
So maybe the website information is wrong.
Yeah.
But 21 is because it's 21 kilogram payload, so basically enough for any modern camera setup, to be honest.
She said from a mobile phone all the way up to a
It looks like a very, very rigid product. I always like the design. It looks very high-end. The legs, I mean, nothing new. They had them before, but also quick release, just one step. And yeah, it's a cool product.
But even a cooler product is the second one that we talked about. Yes. And this is the Ragno
pod. I wrote about this early December. It's on the website, and actually there were quite a few comments that actually commented, oh, finally the Spider Pod is back. So apparently there used to be a product called Spider Pod, which I didn't know about. I think it was US only, Elisabetta told me. Some people call that's a ripoff. She told us that she's actually the one to take over this project from the person who originally invented it, who's retired. It's still patented, so they are taking the patent, and they're kind of reviving it. And this is let me check if there's more footage on this actually here. Yeah, so basically it's a...
We know the drill. You come to shoot something like a performance, and then you need to be a bit higher, and then it might be that the production will offer you something which is not so stable or very dangerous. So this is a great solution, very easy to set up. I have to say, I told her also that the product images don't do it justice. It looks much flimsier on the photos than it actually is. It's very sturdy. Like, honestly, it's something extremely sturdy. And now I understand the price better, to be honest, because of course it needs to be extremely secure. I think it sets you back around $3,000 or $2,300. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. With, I think, and then there's like a separate pedestal that you can also get for standing next to it. So it rises everything. It's perfect for people who shoot events, and I'm actually surprised that there's not more of that out there. But yeah,
and you can get it with soft case. You can get it with the actual foldable platform. Yeah. I mean, there are different configurations, but the starting point is 2,321.
Cool. Moving on, Lumix S12 from Panasonic in the US gets a free update to the ARRI-Log C3 profile, which was used to cost, or it actually still costs $250. And in the US, you can now get this for free. I think, is this only for new customers? I forgot. Or is it for existing ones?
It is. Like many of the promotions, you want to encourage people to buy new cameras. And this is a promotion. Of course, some will feel a bit uncomfortable with that. And of course, there are a lot of comments, why only in the US? So just for you guys to understand how it works, although it has the name Panasonic, like any other company in our industry, is really big. And you have the headquarters in Japan, but then there's Panasonic US, and then there's Panasonic Europe, and you'll be surprised to find out that those are actually working independently. So if in the past there were some European promotions, and there was one actually very similar, I think, to this one. What was that? The one that we did not report because we kind of...
Yeah, there was also
like a special offer for
$1 or something, or £1. Yeah, I think in the UK there was an upgrade for the RAW license or something.
Yeah, that's right. It was a RAW license. And we neglected to report about it. Now there is from Panasonic US, they're offering this. And just a quick note about the camera. This is our camera of the year for 2025. We really like it. It's actually, for me personally, I always find the Panasonic colors to be a little bit reddish. That's why I really like the actual implementation of the ARRI-Log C3 here. The only downside is when you're using the ARRI-Log C3, you cannot shoot ProRes RAW in the camera. So you have to decide on what type of codec you want and how much, if you want RAW or not. And as long as you don't require RAW, this is quite nice. And there is also, we will try to put a link. There's a whole library of ARRI-Log C3 LUTs for free, basically for free. And those LUTs, we are using it day in, day out. They're really nice.
So you use it in post?
Sorry? In post-production, yeah. So all in all, I think it's a nice offering, and check it out if you still. This camera is still very, very capable, and after the firmware update,
it's amazing. Camera of the year, our camera of the year.
True, but I'm just saying that after the firmware update, they also the overheating issues are eliminated. Maybe not 100% because it depends very much on the environment you're working in. But all in all, we hear that so many people are much happier now.
Good. Just maybe you want to have a quick word about the CP Plus Corporation.
Yeah, so we are one of 4 media outlets out there that are acting as a proper media partner, and we are very thankful for that. CIPA, which is the organization also measuring, I mean, it has a lot of Japanese manufacturers under this roof, and they're the one to measure how many cameras are sold a year and a lot of statistics about lenses and so on. They approached and offer us to be a global media partner, and after looking at, we've been covering CP Plus for so many years. Of course, it's kind of it's nice to cooperate.
What's this?
So Nino is looking at like a plastic train model, and you have to be there in order to understand the magnitude. This is like a huge construction, and one of the reasons that you can find it there is because that the show itself, I mean, it's quite long. I think it's 4 or 5 days, but it's very much family oriented.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
It's one of those shows that you can comfortably come with your kids. There's so much to do. There's a lot of cute, sweet stuff, or as we say in Japanese, kawaii. That means it's just cute, and that's really meant for families to explore little things, and you can also buy some
Can you report about some of that? I have never seen it.
I can, of course, report about it if you're
Do
interested.
a video about this.
About
My
the kawaii,
sons would love it.
This is, I can actually. I mean, maybe because it's not camera related, I kind of always neglected it in terms of talk about it. But this is a huge construction, so
you can find an angle that's relevant for our audience.
I'm sure. Maybe autofocus. Right. Yeah. So just if you're interested, the exhibition will take it will be from the 26th until where is this now? March 30. No, sorry, until the 28th. Am I right? Just to make sure that I'm right here, not that I give you false information.
Yeah, here it says Thursday, February 26th to Sunday, March 1st.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. All right. Just quick update. So there has been a launch of a YouTube app for the Apple Vision Pro, and of course I'm aware it's a niche. I'm currently testing a Vision Pro and looking a lot of the very amazing immersive video content. And what's frustrating about it is simply that you cannot convey the experience unless you try it yourself. And I think that's actually the difficulty that also Apple has, because it is amazing, and it's also if it's done properly, it's absolutely breathtaking, the kind of filmmaking that is possible, specifically for the Vision Pro, because of the resolution and the immersion. However, if you are not you just see a photo of VR goggles and you're like, what is this? It's very hard to convey. I can just recommend you, if you have an Apple store or something like that close to you, try it out. Just watch some of one of those 10-15 minutes videos. For example, the Red Bull skiing stuff, or whatever. There's a couple really, really cool productions. A lot of the latest ones shot on the Ursa Cine Immersive. That is definitely the highest quality that's possible. But what has been lacking, I mean, you can browse the web, you can do everything there. You can also browse the YouTube website. But what was sorely lacking was the YouTube app. There has been a Disney Plus app to watch 3D content and stuff like that. Also very impressive. But the YouTube app hasn't been there. And the Vision Pro is now out for over 2 years. And now it's out. And actually, the funny thing is that it's, of course, free. They have a separate tab for immersive content. Now, and that's user created. So that means it kind of opens up the possibility for people to earn money with it, because, of course, it's a small niche, but there's still a lack of content that's really made for those VR sets, specifically the Vision Pro. So if you're a creator and you want to get into this, I can already see in the app, I opened it twice, and you can see some productions that are now 2 years old that were actually made for, Meta or whatever, that now are gaining in popularity because the people who have a Vision Pro are watching this. They're kind of like.
But how does it work? We know that Apple is very much with hands-on creators, and everything has to be controlled. There is nothing like out there spontaneously. So now
no. I mean, there has been the Vimeo app was out there that actually is native, so you could already upload stuff. The thing is that was limited to 4K, and 4K is not a high resolution if you're looking it up that close. It should really be 8K ideally. You can upload 8K to YouTube, so if you're able to shoot even with a 360 camera, like an Insta360, it's extremely, there's different ways. There's immersive video, there's spatial video, which, is literally what you can shoot on your iPhone. That is actually the most impressive because how simple it is. I can take a photo or video of you and watch it in the Vision Pro, and it really looks like you're in front of me. I mean, and I can even do like sideways move, and it looks like you're there, or photos of the family. It's really cool, and that's the easiest to produce. The immersive video is a bit more complicated because you need a camera like the Ursa Cine Immersive, which gives you this 180-degree coverage. And there's not many ways of doing it. Then there's 3D content, like 3D movies, and there's like also 180 or even 360 degree films that you can also upload to YouTube now, which you can. It doesn't matter if you have a Vision Pro or a Meta or whatever. You can literally, you're part of the environment. But what always is very important is the high resolution here.
Nino literally dragged me to try this because you know exactly how much I believe in those things. And I have to say, it's not for everyone. First of all...
Well, you didn't have the patience to have it set it up correctly for you.
No, nothing to do with this. I'm just saying it's...
Your kids were amazed. Your kids were hooked.
First, it's a different generation. And second, I hate to say, but I really hope that they're not going to grow into this kind of future when you are with huge glasses on your face, completely disconnected. But it was nice to see the kids reacting to this.
You see, if I really want you to make you hate me, is to give them one for Christmas.
Please don't. I mean, that will break your bank account. And there's really no reason for that. And I will simply not allow this at home to be disconnected this way. So not enough with the mobile phones, but now they will have.
Of course.
So I felt sick quite fast. So I'm just saying it's really a matter of personal experience. And I think before you go and buy something, just something like this, try if it's really working for you.
Look at how popular our coverage was, even of the Ursa Cine Immersive from NAB. It's one of our most successful videos last year. So a lot of people are interested in shooting content for that. So that makes me very happy.
You will not convince me, Nini. And you know, I think people are
I'll just do a single, I continue to do single episodes by myself, interviewing somebody else about this. If that's the topic, that's fine. That's fine for me. But anyway, the app is really well done. And the funny thing is, on LinkedIn, I saw the lead developer. It's like almost like a sigh of relief that it's out, because apparently, I mean, it wasn't easy to do this. The reason, of course, that it's 2 years late, we don't know the exact reason, but finally it's out. And I think it's actually adding a lot of value to the platform. Good. Moving on. Quick mention of the Profoto L600C lighting review by Graham. Our friend Graham in LA actually took the Profoto light for a spin. And what do you think, Johnny? Is Profoto still a photo light company?
No, it's not. We know that they're trying to move really hard into our cinema video industry. I think it's worth noting that this is a Swedish company, maybe one of the only one that left, which is still manufacturing stuff in Europe and not in China. And I think one of the things that you can see, there are two distinguished things. First of all is the actual design of this fixture, which is simply look beautiful. I have to say, it's a very nice design. And the second thing is the price. This is something which is simply much more, at least sometimes twice or even 3 times more than aperture or non-lens. Depends if you're comparing apples to apples here. It's just simply more expensive. And that's another thing that we get from, you can see in the comments, people are asking themselves, why should I actually put more money into something like this? So it's not that we're trying to convince anybody to put money on this or anything else. I think it's still a valid tool. And as Graham noted, eventually it's built very well. You don't have a dedicated ballast here, which
That's
also
great.
makes the whole thing much smaller. The output is good enough for a lot of the stuff that he's doing.
600 watt.
Yeah, because usually you are using a higher output in order to execute some of the stuff, if it's outdoor commercials and so on. So there are a lot of advantages here. But on the other hand, one of the largest disadvantages is the IP rating. It's only 20. So if you are planning to take this device out, just watch for the weather forecast. Not that something so expensive like this is simply become obsolete in any way. But read it. I think it's interesting to see also in terms of philosophy, if you compare it to Chinese stuff, how the Europeans are approaching such a light. And the only thing that I can wish Profoto is to be more accessible. Let's call them the ARI. Like they're like when it comes to lighting, they're like the ARI side of this. Yeah, I mean it's simple to use, built like a tank, and so on. The only question is, and if you look at ARI, I guess that's the answer, if the price is justified.
I mean, yeah, and we have to say that in the photo field, they are like the top brand.
They are,
They
exactly.
are like the super high-end brand, and they're now entering into this. I like the fact that it doesn't have a ballast. I mean, it's something that I remember when those first LED lights came on, and suddenly it was normal to have a ballast with every light. I mean, in the old days, you only had it with HMIs, and then when we moved to LED, suddenly every light had to have a ballast, and it's not great to always have that. Especially when you're shooting outside. I think it can be quite cumbersome, and I think it's great to have an all-in-one thing. It just makes it easier to set up.
Of course,
but
of course there are some limitations here in terms of volts and watts. But at the end, as long as you can do stuff without ballast, that will always be the.
Well, it's built
way.
in. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It makes it heavier, of course. It's like 13 kilos or something. Or where was it? 13 pounds? Sorry, not 13 kilos. That would be a lot.
This is quickly to the actual
weight. Yeah, 13 pounds. What is that in kilos? Probably like 6.5, 7. Yeah, something like that. So it's okay. I think it's still manageable. We have to remind our American friends to also put the kilograms. It's like
doesn't exist, huh? No,
doesn't exist for Americans.
But that's 6 kilos. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good. Moving on, the Tilta Nucleus Autofocus Adapter is now formally launched. Now, you did a nice interview about this at Interby, I think.
Yeah, it was quite popular and impressive. I have to say that we love those, at least the idea of taking manual lenses, regardless to how, what mount they are, whatever. The data is being extracted from the camera sensor itself. Tilta decided to start with Sony cameras. Those are very popular, and maybe they have some agreement. We don't know, but all in all, what we saw, you feed the device with a huge amount of like lens data into it. Of course, you can also add by yourself, but those will come already pre-programmed, and this niche in general is really growing, and of course we can see the competition with Viltrox. We are reviewing the Viltrox as we speak. Hopefully the review will be out soon. We had some issues. We contacted the company. They were extremely fast to respond, but we didn't want to be irresponsible here and just come up with the review when we are not 100% convinced that it's working. So now it's working, and we will come up and out with the review soon. But back to the Tilta, I think because previous models made by other companies were more LiDAR. You needed a LiDAR device, DJI or PD. What was it?
PD movie.
Exactly, for example, and those are working differently. And from what we saw, it can really work well. And the price, price is also very competitive.
So the thing with the price here is Tilta is taking a little bit of a different approach than Viltrox. The Viltrox is like a standalone. So I think the Viltrox is more targeted at like creators that don't have any kind of remote follow focus set yet.
Yeah.
So it really comes, I think, with 1 or 2 motors, depending on the set that you choose. And it's really, the Viltrox is really made to be used with the 2 motors for aperture and focus. And I think it started at like $700, but it's a kind of contained unit, so you can use this as is. The Tilta comes at a much lower price, but you have to use it with the Nucleus N2, the Nano 2, or the M2. And that's why the base kit starts at already $270, regular $300. So it's
without the Nucleus.
Without the Nucleus, so you have to add that in. Yeah. So, and in general, philosophy-wise, you can see that the Tilta is more targeted at kind of traditional film sets where you have an AC that can kind of take over the thing. So you can, at any point in time, if you have an M2, disable or enable the autofocus adapter. So for example, you have let's say a shot where your talent is walking towards the lens, something that is traditionally very hard to pull manually, especially when you're on a telephoto lens. And this, you can just simply enable the adapter when you have that, and then disable it again, disengage it, and then really pull. I think that's perfect for these kind of scenarios. But you will have to have a Nucleus unit in order to use it. And yeah, both systems supposedly will come, the Viltrox and the Tilta, like you said, with a lot of lens data pre-installed. The Viltrox that we tested didn't have those yet, but on the shipping version, they will have it. And again, yeah, like you said, our review should be out by the next time we see each other on the podcast, actually. Good. Let's slowly wrap it up. We just want to mention this viral, but there's been, the AI stuff we talked about in the beginning. Now we pushed it to the end, so hopefully
we know how much you love it, guys.
Less complaints. There has been the release of 2 Chinese models over the last 2 weeks that actually shook up the AI video world again. One is Kling 3.0 and the other one is CDance 2.0. CDance is the AI video model by ByteDance, which is the TikTok owner. Well, the international TikTok owner, because the American TikTok is now owned by Oracle. But the international TikTok is originally developed and owned by ByteDance. And they released a model, CDance 2.0, that was immediately used by a creator to make a fight sequence between an AI version of Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt that went really viral because it looked so convincing. And apparently this was generated. It also has audio, and literally the voices sound exactly like the original actors. Apparently this was created by one prompt, because you can now feed it literally one prompt and the dialogue, and then it will even kind of come up with the different angles and stuff like that. It's kind of scary how convincing it looks. The resolution of the CDance thing is very low. I actually had somebody on LinkedIn comment that it's not even 1080p yet, but it's like a.
Let's talk next week.
And let's talk next week, exactly. And then in parallel, there was also the release of or just a few days before that, the Kling video model, which works very similarly because you can also feed it one image and then just say, make me a scene out of this. So you feed it one image and then it even kind of invents the different angles of the cameras. And it's all about character consistency now. Those models have become a lot better with showing consistent characters that don't change from shot to shot, which has been the main issue, of course. Is like stuff looked impressive already, but it was impossible to recreate the same character. I mean, in the old days, we had things like, of course, problems where the, like 5-6 fingers and so on, that is long gone. But now it's more about character consistency, and that seems to be solved with those latest models. So let's see where things go. We also, there's another thing that went a little bit viral over the last couple of days, which is this short film by
the Door Brothers.
I say somebody named Door Brothers because the only person I could find behind it is one person. His name is Jonathan Door, Berlin-based director who already gave a lot of public talks on AI. They have a website which is, quite impressive. They did a lot of. He was even mentioned. They were mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast once for some impressive thing that they did in the past with AI video. I mean, all of this was done with the CDance model, with a new one. It's a whole action sequence with a consistent character, lots of explosions, lots of stuff that looks like high budget VFX, to be honest. And you can't really tell that. I mean,
and if you can tell now, you will not be able to tell in 6 months' time. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That took them
10 hours.
10 hours. 10 hours to make this, and
of course, those are people who are very experienced working with these things. But still, I mean, it's like, and filmmakers. I mean, in both cases, you had filmmakers that are, like kind of traditional filmmakers that kind of got into the AI video space that, know about camera movement and angles and lighting and stuff. So
and the main character is also kind of his creation. It's not because there were some people who were asking if he took actual actresses and kind of tried to combine between Emma Truman and Pamela Anderson. No, that's his creation or whatever he made. Yeah. I'm just saying.
We don't know the original prompt. Might have been the prompt to combine
no,
those two.
No, he said
actors.
that he didn't use.
The funny thing is the Cybertruck has engine sounds in this, which is an electric.
It can be, and there's also
car.
maybe the police is written spelled wrong. But those are all. If we will start to look into small things like this, of course we will find so many. But that's the question. If that's what's important here is to pick up on what's wrong or concentrate on what's going on here in the sense of storytelling and AI creation.
I mean, there was a lot of, the article that I wrote on the whole viral AI fight between the Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt was really, it was a huge outcry of Hollywood associations, specifically SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union, and I think even some others. And basically, there's blatant infringement, of course, of rights, like of using actual actors' livelihoods. MPA, the Motion Picture Association, and also Disney already took action with cease and desist letters and so on. So apparently those Chinese models don't really care about IP. So let's see. I don't know if this is the Napster moment that we've been waiting for, because now it's been, it's reached a quality where it's really becoming completely indistinguishable. And when I say Napster moment, I mean what happened to the music industry 25, 26 years ago, when literally everybody started illegally downloading all music overnight through Napster, and then they kind of sued them into oblivion, and then managed to find a way of creating platforms like, in the beginning, iTunes, later Spotify, that still made some money for the industry. Of course, it changed forever. But that's the question, why have they waited so long with this to actually fight it? That's the interesting part. All right. Anyway, I think we can wrap it up here.
I think so too.
That was a long episode because we haven't talked for 2 weeks. And because we had a different episode, special episode last week. And we'll see you next week again with an interesting topic. I don't want to give away too much yet. And when you're back from CP Plus, we'll hear how it was in Japan.
I can tell you now already, it was great.
Okay. Thanks for watching. See you next week on Focus Check. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Email us at podcast@cined.com. Tell your friends about this podcast if you like it. And see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.